kids' toys of the decade.
I love kids'
We're
toys.
starting off with the 1920s. Women had just gotten the right to vote. The Red Scare was going around, and jazz was taking over the music scene. The toy of the decade here was the Raggedy Ann doll.
Oh.
Everybody knows the Raggedy Ann doll, and for its time, it was certainly a banger. Beloved by many because of its soft, huggable features, unlike other toys of the time that were mainly hard and made out of plastic. The Ann doll also had its own book series that taught kids strong moral lessons and promoted honesty and love. For its time, I'd give it a solid 9 out of 10. In the modern age, it just kind of looks like Wendy on methamphetamine. With this, I'd give an overall rating of 7 out of 10. It's time for the
1930s
with an absolute classic. During this time, the Great Depression had just started after the stock market crash in 1929. And you also can't forget the Dust Bowl. That does sound all bad, but that's before knowing that this decade Monopoly came out. Monopoly first came out in 1935. It was an instant hit. In its first year, it had sold over 1 million copies, which was huge considering it was during the Great Depression. People really liked this game because it allowed them for an escape from reality where they can pretend to be rich during hard times. This game was such a banger, it was even on Nintendo Wii.
What do you say? Buy that shit.
For its time, this game was definitely a 10 out of 10. But in the modern age, this game is also a 10 out of 10 with an overall rating of 10 out of 10. Certified banger! 1-9. World War II had just begun. Television had just started to kick off in the American home as well. Enough with that boring stuff. Let's get to the toy of the decade, the Slinky!
Boring.
The Slinky was first demonstrated as a toy that can walk down a set of stairs. Kids very much liked the toy because of its weird physics, and it was only a $1.
That's so
For its
affordable.
time, this toy is definitely 8 out of 10. Almost every single kid had one. But in the modern age, this toy is kind of mid. I mean, yeah, you can do stuff like this, I guess, but overall rating 6 out of 10. 1950s, a lot of stuff was happening. A lot of post-war stuff. The television has started to become extremely popular with shows like I Love Lucy, The Honeymooners, and Leave It to Beaver. The toy of the decade, the Holy Grail!
Play-Doh!
Yeah! Originally, Play-Doh was created in the 1930s. Not as a toy, but as a wallpaper cleaner. But by the 1950s, wallpaper was actually starting to become irrelevant, and the company was going near bankruptcy. So then a teacher by the name of Keizu Fall saw that the wallpaper cleaner was actually pretty good for kids to shape and mold into art projects, and she suggested to the company to rebrand it as a children's toy by the name of Play-Doh. For its time, this was a definite 9 out of 10. But in the modern age, I don't know. I haven't really seen a kid play with Play-Doh in a while. Overall rating, 8 out of 10. 1960s. This decade, Cold War tensions were high. Many nations also gained independence from colonial powers like Britain, France, and Belgium. A bunch of assassinations. John F. Kennedy, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr., and Robert F. Kennedy. And also Neil Armstrong landed on the moon in 1969. And the toy of the decade was this, the Chatty Cathy doll. I don't see the hype, but apparently a lot of kids love this toy because it could quote-unquote talk by pulling on the string on the back of the doll. After pulling the string on her back, she would say things like, "I love you, will you play with me? Here's the rest." This toy was so popular they even made a brown complexioned version. Can't believe this sold for $5. For its time, I guess it was like magical to kids because it's a doll that could talk. So 8 out of 10. In the modern age, this doll is actually freaking expensive, yo. And it's also freaking creepy. Overall rating 1 out of 10. The
1970s. Almost every TV was in color now. A bunch of fire movies like The Godfather, Jaws, and Star Wars started coming out. Freaking Rocky, Taxi Driver. A lot of political stuff too, but I ain't reading all that. But for the toy of the decade, there were actually two minis. So the top three were Nerf, not the Nerf guns, but the Nerf ball, Star Wars action figures, and Hot Wheels. Almost everyone was into the Nerf ball. Kids, teenagers, parents, they all loved it.
Let's play ball. In the house? Sure. Hey, what are those things anyway? They're Nerf balls.
The Star Wars figures, people mainly only liked them because they were from Star Wars, and the Star Wars movies were actually really popular during this time.
Now, the Earthlings at Kenner have asked my associate and me to present the Star Wars collection. Truly remarkable toys and games for your children. My goodness, the Star Wars TIE Fighter and X-Wing fighter. Now your
In Hot Wheels, they just looked sick. They had flashy colors, they were durable, they were affordable, and you can't forget the loop-de-loops.
They're the fastest metal cars you've ever seen. Mattel's new Hot Wheels.
Nerf Ball 6 out of 10. Star Wars action figures 7 out of 10. And the Hot Wheels, we know it's a 10 out of 10. Come on.
The 1980s.
This was the decade of bright neon colors and the GOAT, Michael Jackson. Also a bunch of TV icons like the A-Team and the Cosby Show. The toy of this decade is a Cabbage Patch Kids. Apparently when these toys first came out, this was the toy every kid wanted. Rumors has it wasn't just hype, it was straight up chaos with these toys. There was straight up riots inside these stores with people fighting in the toy aisles, trying to get it for the kid for the holiday season. The reason kids wanted these dolls so bad because these dolls felt personal. Each one had a unique name, a quote-unquote birth certificate, and you could quote-unquote adopt them. For its time, this doll was for sure a 10 out of 10 certified banger. But in the modern age, these dolls just look like ass. Overall rating 2 out of 10. 1990s. This was the decade of dial-up internet where you had to listen to this sound for like an hour. The rise of hip-hop and rap with Tupac, Biggie, and Dr. Dre. Pop artists like Britney Spears, the Backstreet Boys, and Spice Girls. Anyways, the toy of the decade was the Tamagotchi. This was a little egg-shaped keychain where the user could raise a little creature in the device by feeding it, cleaning up its poop, and keeping it alive. For its time, this was most definitely a banger because they used to sell out at stores all the time. 9 out of 10. But in the modern age, I don't know, just play Pokemon. Overall rating 6 out of 10. The 2000s, a lot of things changed this decade. Consoles like the PlayStation 2, the Xbox, and the Nintendo Wii came out, and hip-hop was on top of the charts with artists like Kanye. There were too many popular toys this decade, so the top 3 were Bratz dolls, Beyblades, and Nerf blasters. Bratz dolls were mainly popular with tweens rather than kids because of its edgy and fashionable look compared to Barbie. Overall rating 6 out of 10. And Beyblades, they were toys that you can fight your friends with, and they made for pretty neat collectibles too. Overall rating 8 out of 10. Nerf blasters, 10 out of 10. Come on now, I don't even gotta expect 1,000 times. The rise of technology. Smartphones became an essential and social media dominated everything. But the toy of the decade? Monster High dolls. They were popular for the same reason as Bratz dolls, except they were spooky. Overall rating 7 out of 10. Now that I'm an expert on this topic, it's time to make my predictions. The recent years clearly like dolls, so I think they're gonna make dolls of Umbarino Crocodilo and freaking and that's it.